Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Teresa.
And this is the Creating Normal podcast, a podcast on living a creative life beyond mental illness,
where we share our successes and our struggles in life and in art. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Creating Normal. I'm Teresa Colon, and with me today is James Prescott.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Really great to be here.
If you're a returning listener, we want to say thank you for coming back. And if you're new, we want to say welcome. We hope you enjoy the experience.
Absolutely. Yes. Welcome, new people. And thank you, old people who've been here before.
So, James, what's been going on with you this week?
Wow. It's been, mental health-wise, it's been a lot better.
Good.
Yeah. I'm not sure particularly why that is, but although I've been eating more vegetables this week, I've been eating a bit better and taking more vitamins and taking magnesium and resting well. And yeah, I feel a lot healthier in myself, which is good.
That's great.
In that aspect, it's good. And also I've got a big writing opportunity that's come up this week as well. Opportunity to write some material for somebody to ghostwrite a book, a short book for somebody, and to get some coaching from them as well, which has all been really, really exciting. So it's been a good week.
Well, that's fantastic.
And what about you?
My week has not been as solid. It started off really strong last week. I got a new post up on Medium that I was really excited about that did really fantastically well. And actually, it kind of feeds into kind of what we're talking about here on this podcast, because at the beginning of the year, I wrote a post about how I refuse to set goals this year.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
You remember that one, right? I bought into the goal culture really hard and found that actually it was really counterproductive to both my productivity and especially to my mental health. So this year, I've been on a big tear where I refuse to set goals, and I'm just kind of letting my interests guide my actions and in my direction. And what I am finding in that is, first of all, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like work. Every day I get to work on something I enjoy. There are a couple of smaller administrative tasks that I don't always, thrill to do, but those are so small now because I've pretty much decided that if I don't like it, I'm not doing it. But I've also found, oddly, that my productivity is like crazy strong right now. And I'll put a link to the post in the show notes here. I'm sorry. I think I didn't set my do not disturb on. So that went really well. But then kind of after that, everything just kind of fell apart on me. And I found that I after Wednesday, I ran out of steam and just didn't have any energy left for the rest of my week. And that was a little frustrating, but I'm back on the wagon now, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great. That's cool. Yeah. Well, it's all about overcoming challenges, isn't it? And just to say to everyone, we want to hear your stories too. The reason we share these stories is because we want to hear yours as well. And if we hear some great stories, we will share them here with your permission. Because the reason we're doing this podcast is to really encourage you and support you on your journeys and let you know that you're not alone. If you're struggling creatively, if you're struggling with mental health issues, you're not alone. And you don't have to go through it alone. So do tweet us and post in the Facebook group and post on the Facebook page. Let us know how you're doing. We'd love to hear from you and support you. So, yeah. We're on Twitter at Creating Normal, by the way. That's our Twitter. Creating Normal everywhere. Just look for Creating Normal. So, yeah, which brings us to our topic for today.
It sure does. Our topic for today is being authentic.
Yes, being authentic. Authentic is such a buzzword. It's been a buzzword for the last 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
And that actually some people are kind of like don't like the word anymore.
Well, it starts to feel a little trite at some point when everybody's telling you that the way to be successful is to be authentic. At some point you go, I don't know how to be
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. And to me, like using being authentic as a tactic to be successful, the kind of isn't authentic.
Right.
So if you're just using the whole kind of oh, I'm really authentic thing as a way of promoting yourself, then you're not being authentic. Um, to me, I think being authentic is important for its own sake. Um, and I think the best creative work that we do, no matter how successful it is the stuff that's really authentic.
Yes.
And by authentic, I mean something that's true, something that it comes from deep within us, something that's birthed inside of us, something that we care about, something that is true about us, that's part of our story, something that we care about, that we're passionate about, and that we want to talk about, no matter how many people see it.
Yes.
That if we're being true to who we are and true to our story, then we're being authentic. And I think that's where you get the best art, even if it's not the most successful in terms of sales. The best stuff that I read, the best films that I see, the best, they're the stuff. They're the ones that are you can see that there's truth to them. Yeah, they're not just trying to make money. They're not just trying to appeal to as many people as possible. They're being true to who they are and to what they care about and to the message that they want to get across to people. So that's that's kind of I'm really passionate about this subject, and that's what I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that I think that part of being authentic is inviting people into our mess. And I think that's where it gets to be a little uncomfortable, is trying to figure out how much mess do I let people into.
yeah,
Especially like, and I definitely feel this pressure. I'll acknowledge that right up front, because I run a mental health ministry, and I have gotten feedback that I need to have my makeup done and my hair done, whenever I'm on camera, whenever people see me, so that I can project the message that I want to send, which is that, mental illness is not a death sentence, and you can feel better. It takes work, but you definitely can feel better, and there's a lot of hope. And, I've kind of been thinking about that, because I took that advice. It's really solid advice, right? You want to project what you want other people to believe. On the other hand, do I really want to tell people that every day I have the energy to get up and put on makeup? That's not my reality. There are days like today, actually, as James and I are podcasting, I think this is the first episode where I don't actually have my makeup on, and I'm okay with that, because because I'm okay with that, because today's just not a makeup day for me. And trying to put that balance between making sure I'm projecting that message of hope and encouragement for people, and telling them, honestly, I still struggle. Honestly, I still have challenges with insomnia. Honestly, I still have to do journaling. I still have to do some of these things. How much do I want? Where's my balancing line between what I do to help other people feel better and taking care of myself? And I think that for me is a real challenge.
I think self-care has to be really, really important because if it has to be primary importance because if we're not caring for ourselves, then we're less able to care for other people.
Yes.
If we are not taking, if we're just pushing ourselves, giving out all the time and never getting anything in, and never getting any self-care, we're not going to be in a position to produce great work. We're not going to be able to help people effectively. Like self-care, it's really, really important. It's not being selfish to care for yourself.
No.
It's actually a sign that you love yourself, and that yeah, we need to do it. Like there is a balance that you need to get with self-care and being selfish.
Yes.
Being selfish is kind of making yourself more important than everybody else, not thinking of other people, putting yourself in front of everybody else all the time. Whereas self-care is actually looking after yourself and valuing yourself so that you can serve other people. Because if you want to serve people, and I know that you do, Teresa, if you want to serve people, the best way you can do that is to be as healthy as you can. because then you have more energy. You probably have more time. You'll be able to focus a lot better. You'll feel a lot better in yourself, more confident, and you'll have more to pass on to other people anyway. And you'll be in a better position to help more people. So self-care is really, really important. And part of self-care is journaling. I think like I was speaking to somebody from my podcast who told me that they've done a lot of research and found that there's three things I think that actually can help you create a better life, which is writing regularly, doing some kind of physical exercise, and she uses yoga, something which kind of gets your body moving.
Yeah.
And some kind of affirmation, prayer, reflection, meditating, that kind of thing. If you do those three things consistently, you'll be a lot healthier.
Yes.
Because it helps because apparently doing those three things helps retrain your brain, the part of the brain that you need to retrain, which is the habits and the automated decisions, the part that makes the decisions when you're tired. And if you can retrain that part of your brain, then you'll be able to change your habits and you'll be able to change your lifestyle. This is something that she's done in her own life, and it really challenged me, to kind of maybe try these things out for myself, and if you're looking after yourself, then you're much better able to care for others. That's and this is kind of going off track from being authentic, but I think when you care for yourself, you can be more authentic. I think when you're loving yourself, you can talk about your story with a lot more confidence.
And I think you're right? I think that it gives you an opportunity I think that when we love ourselves well, we are a lot more comfortable with it, and therefore it becomes easier to share the mess because it doesn't feel quite so messy, which is probably the most convoluted sentence I'll say in this entire podcast. So apologies to everybody listening. But but I know that the healthier I get, the more comfortable I am telling people about things that a year ago I would have felt a lot of shame over, because I've resolved a lot of those feelings, right? So being authentic, and I think here's the other thing that I have found, and this is we talked a couple weeks ago about social media and how unhealthy it is for you. I'm going to tell you, this is one of the benefits I've gotten from social media, is that as I've started to strip off some of those outer layers, some of those veneers of, being acceptable and being the career-driven woman and everything that kind of I always felt people expected me to be, the more I'm finding that people like the person underneath. They like the weirdness. They,
Yeah.
When I'm quiet and encouraging, it actually gets a very strong response. And I just have found that for me, that's been really affirming. So from that aspect, social media has been a real aid to me.
Yeah. Oh, it can be, for sure. And I think we talked about that. I mean, social media can be a real blessing and a real encouragement, and you can find great support on there and solidarity and encouragement. And so it's just getting that balance right.
Right.
With social media, as we talked about, and in terms of being authentic, I think we just need to be true to who we are.
So
and
I think that's the challenge. I have always thought that I was being authentic, but now that I'm in a healthier headspace, I can see all the ways that I put on little behaviors and veneers. So I'm curious, James, when you're talking to people and they're trying to find their authentic true voice, or when they're trying to figure out who they are, how do you encourage them to do that and to look through their own layers?
Well, I think what I did and what I encourage others to do, and it's a form of journaling, but it's called free writing. This is what I did, and I've encouraged others to do it, and it's helped them as well. Basically, you sit down and you just write. You don't have an agenda. You don't even have a prompt most of the time when you do this. You just write, sit down and just write and see what comes out. And you keep doing it every day for like 5 or 10 minutes. And with no edit button, no, no, nothing like that. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to share this with anybody
Yeah.
at all. This is for you. If you want to share it, you can at some point. But just get whatever inside out of you. And when I did this, I found there were things inside of me that I didn't even know were there. And I've been finding this in the last couple of years, working through my stuff, working through my trauma, my past. And I started to write about it and write about my feelings and write about what was going through my mind. Other things started to open up. Places I needed healing, places that issues that I'd had, insecurities that I'd had, or ways of thinking that I'd actually been practicing without even knowing that I'd had them. And I started to write this out. It was healing. And as I started to do that, I started to have ideas about ways I could use this to encourage others. Ways I could turn this into something that could encourage other people.
Yeah.
And because when you write your story out like that, it gets stuff out. I had a blog post go up about a week or two before we recorded this, which was me starting to tell my story. And that post came from about 2 years of posts of free writing, getting my stuff out, and starting to get my story coherent.
Yeah.
And to find a way to use it to help other people. The most authentic work is when you tell your story. And I'm not talking about necessarily just doing a memoir or telling your personal story, but when something is birthed in you, which is part of who you are and part of your story, people can connect with that because it's true and you can't argue with it. I always say people can smell when something isn't true, when something isn't authentic. You can just tell. There's something about it. You just get a sense from it. I always say that our creative work tells the truth of who we are. So if we're not being authentic, it will tell us. It will tell people that they're not being authentic. If someone's more interested in numbers and sales, people will be able to tell that from the writing. Writing tells the truth about who we are, and that's what I recommend to people, just to write it out. And what you might find is that, like, when I a few years ago I did this, and I ended up discovering my writing voice. I ended up discovering that I was passionate about being authentic as a writer. I was passionate about creativity and exploring creativity and helping people overcome their writing fears. And a whole load of blog posts on those kind of topics came out, and it was my most authentic work. And and this is a complete coincidence. It also turned out to be my most successful work because I wasn't trying to be successful. I was trying to be authentic. I was trying to be true to who I was and tell my story and something that I cared about and share that with people. And when I did that, that turned out to be more successful than when I was trying to be successful and focusing on the success rather than being authentic. And I think also when you want to be authentic, when you're authentic in your creative work, you become a better person as well. You become much more of a person of integrity and somebody people can trust. And I think I think that's really, really important.
Well, I think you raised something really important in there, right? Because we already talked about how part of the idea of being authentic is sharing your vulnerability or being transparent about your challenges. But I think the other part that doesn't get emphasized as strongly, and I think it deserves more emphasis, is having confidence in what we do well. And I think, there's a lot of people who appreciate self-deprecating humor and who will say, well, I write, but I'm not that good, and in reality, they're phenomenal writers. And I think that part of being authentic is saying, you know what, this is something I'm good at. And I think that there's a lot of merit in it. I will tell you right now, I think I am a good writer. I think I am a good speaker. And I think that in many situations, I am a good listener and somebody who is able to encourage people in a one-on-one situation. I think that those are some of my strengths. And I think that in embracing that, it helps me take shape and focus for my art and my creative work. And I think that that helps me in being authentic, because I know then that some of these opportunities that have presented themselves, I can say, this is probably not the right opportunity for me because it doesn't fit into my strengths, or, you know what, it's not one of my strengths, but it's something I'm curious to explore anyway. And at least I have a different level of expectation for it, you know?
Mm, absolutely agree. Yeah. And that's a really good place to be, when you can get to that confidence in what you're good at. That's a really great place to be. And trust yourself, and trust your gifts. Trust that, that you have these things, and that not in an arrogant way at all, but in a really healthy way.
Yes.
And say, okay, I've got something that I can offer people, and I'm going to use that. And that's a really, really good thing to get, a really good place to get to.
Yeah.
One thing I would say about vulnerability is that even if, when you're sharing your story and you're being really, really honest, it's important to have boundaries about how much you share, because we don't, if we share everything, that's probably going too far, and that's probably not healthy for us, and it's probably not healthy for other people, because people don't need to know every sordid detail. Somebody told me when we're sharing our stories, that we need to be kind, we need to be honest, and there was one other one, I can't remember what it was, but we need to be kind, and we need to be kind to the people that we're talking about. We need to be honest about our story, and we need to be just caring and kind. Yeah, and I think that's really, really important. We don't need to give away all the sordid details. We don't need to tell everyone everything. Um,
And that's kindness
but
to ourselves.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's some things that shouldn't be said publicly to every single person in the world. There are some things that should be kept for close friends, and maybe therapists, or spiritual directors, or counselors, or anything, or family. Things that should be kept private. That's important to have those boundaries. But when you're sharing your story, it's important to be vulnerable to the extent that it's appropriate to be. Now, I mean, personally, when you talked about not wearing makeup,
Yeah.
for example, you see, if I saw a video of somebody talking about their challenges and being honest and saying, I can't wear makeup today, I'm having a bad day, this is how it is, without going into too much detail, that's actually really a positive for me. I wouldn't be put off by that, because it would be like, this person is actually being true to their story. They're not just talking about us being mucked up and talking about themselves being mucked up and having a difficult time. They're actually showing that it's true.
Yes.
They're not just saying things to get an audience. This is actually true for who they are, and that actually helps build trust with your audience as well. I would say. I mean, I'm not saying do it all the time. I'm just saying that on occasion, there are times when you can do that, and so.
What I was going to say is, and we should probably wrap this up because we're starting to run just a tiny bit long here, is that what I realized was that at first it felt really good to me, and actually it was very affirming to be wearing makeup and to be doing my hair, because that was a habit that I had fallen out of, and to do it again and to look in the mirror was a big confidence booster for me, and it continues to be. The days when I do my makeup and I do my hair and I look in the mirror, every time I look in the mirror, washing my hands or whatever, it makes me feel good. That still means that there are some days. When I began to realize, though, was that when I felt that I had to do it, that it was no longer a choice for me, that made me start to question whether or not it was, whether I was still being, whether I was really projecting the message of authenticity I wanted to my audience, to your point. Because, the moment that it feels like it's a task or something that I have to do, then it started making me think, is this advice came from somebody I trust, this advice came from somebody I respect, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the advice is always right or always true. And so it's kind of just given myself some permission to say, you know what, if I want to take a day off every so often and present myself to my audience in a more raw way, then I'm okay with that. But I would not have gotten to that place if I hadn't done all the mindfulness work and realized that I felt a little, and I don't know what the right word for this is really, but a little jittery inside, saying I feel some cognitive dissonance inside myself when I look at myself with makeup today, because that doesn't reflect how I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree with that. So, I mean, this has been a really good conversation.
Yes.
I just want to encourage everyone out there to just do some free writing, really, and connect, with yourself. And and also that you don't have to share everything. Share what you feel is appropriate to share. Tell your story. And the thing I really want to emphasize to listeners is that everyone's story is valuable. Your story is valuable. I think some of these platform building people out there they make it sound like if your story doesn't get out to loads and loads of people, then it's not valuable. Then it doesn't matter. If you don't get an audience, then your story doesn't matter. And that is the biggest lie in the history of lies. It's like everyone's story matters. Everyone's story has infinite value and worth, because it's yours and because you have infinite value and worth. And so don't be afraid to share your story.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to tell your story. And create work that's true to who you are, because that's the way that you will grow as a writer best. That's the way that you will get healing, and that's the way that you'll create your best work, for me. So that's kind of my little word of encouragement for today.
Is that your tip and recommend for the week?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
You're cheating.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't really top that anyway, can I? So I couldn't think.
Well, it was fantastically delivered. I feel encouraged. I know that for sure. And I think for me, my tip for this week, I think honestly, it would maybe just take some time and just do some mindfulness work and just be aware of, and the easiest way that I have found to do mindfulness work is to do a breathing exercise. And there's some great apps on Google Play and the iTunes stores, like Calm, Breathe, Meditate. There's some really great apps out there. I prefer doing breathing exercises, like 2 minutes of 4 square breathing, which is inhale for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then pause between breaths for 4 seconds, and just kind of writing down a list of changes that I noticed in my body. That has helped me so much in terms of identifying triggers when I am triggered, and how I know that I'm uncomfortable. And in doing so, that's helped me on my journey to, to being authentic, and as in setting boundaries and figuring out when I'm unhappy, and setting a plan to either resolve it, problem solve, or to establish a cope ahead plan so that I can manage for it in advance if I know I'm going into a situation that's going to cause me distress. So I think, that would be my recommend for the week.
That's a really, really good one. Like that. Might even try it myself. Good.
All right. So I think that wraps us up for this week, James.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Hope you have a good week, everybody. I hope
Absolutely.
this has been helpful for you, and encouraging. So
Yes.
It's always good doing these podcasts. I love doing this show.
I do too. I love chatting with you. I love these chats every week.
Yeah.
I was telling James at the end of after we went off the air last week that these are the conversations I used to have when I was a teenager, and I loved them. And now getting to do these chats with him now makes me feel like I'm 16 all over again, which is absolutely delightful.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us this week. And James and I are here to remind you to create courageously
and love yourself fiercely.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Creating Normal podcast. You can find links and show notes to everything we've discussed today on our website at creatingnormalpodcast.com. We invite you to continue the conversation in our Facebook group, which you can find at Creating Normal Community. You can follow James on Twitter and Instagram at JamesPrescott77, and you can follow Teresa on Twitter and Instagram at Teresa M. Cologne. Thanks for listening.